You have been hiding here all this time.
Who are you talking to?
Hello and welcome to Ycft. We are fresh out of seeing A Haunting in Venice, heavily adapted from Halloween Party by Agatha Christie, both in name, location, and the mystery itself.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the third outing of Kenneth Branagh's Hercule Poirot, so that makes it a trilogy now. He both starred and directed in it, like with the previous two. And we have to admit, we haven't seen Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile. It was the horror twist that got us hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
So good. The advertising was pretty good
It worked.
on that.
Yeah.
You know, on that side of things, it got us sat in the theatre, and we were in a full theatre as well.
Yeah, that was cool.
Quick synopsis: Poirot is retired. He's seen too much death, and he is retired in Venice. He enjoys his pastries. People line up outside his doors wanting to investigate for them. But he says no, he's done. And when an old friend coaxes him to a Halloween party to debunk a seance, and then it turns into an Agatha Christie murder mystery.
Yes. Yeah. So it's kind of unique, I guess, off the bat, in that he's not actually called in to investigate a murder. He's not on site for the death even that, you know, spurs on the seance. That's all happened in the past. The story becomes a murder mystery when he's actually on the scene. Which is it's kind of it's a cool premise. As different as it is from the book, which from what I remember was quite dark. I think that the story really worked. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that works for it is Kenneth Branagh as Poirot, and I was nervous because the last Poirot I experienced was David. I always remember his last name. Forget his last name.
David Suchet.
David Suchet.
Yeah.
He is Poirot. He always will be. But
Yes.
Kenneth Branagh was fantastic. He's charming. He has the mannerisms down. He brings quite a lot to the character. He is the driving force of the film.
I was quite reticent about Branagh when was Murder on the Orient Express was the first one, wasn't it? And I remember when that was released, and I saw the trailer, and I was like, I'm not so sure. And I think that was probably just because I was very biased towards David Suchet, who I'd grown up with. He's like my Poirot. We all have like our own favorite Bond and whatnot, but like David Suchet is my Poirot. So I think I was very kind of protective over him. But yeah, I have to admit, Branagh, I think he nails the character. Like his accent, I think is pretty good. He's got the arrogance of Poirot, which is really, really important for the character. But he also has that charisma. You know, he's very gentlemanly, very demure, and so yeah. I think he did a good job.
Having the supernatural backdrop,
yes,
as limited as the supernatural backdrop is, it places Poirot in a situation which he's not used to. He's not used to not being able to believe certain things, like having to question what he's seeing, that maybe he doesn't know what's going on. So that part of it I really like. Along with Branagh, the other star of this film is Venice.
Yes.
It was all shot on location. It feels like a character and is so important to the story that it kind of wouldn't work anywhere else. Like the architecture is even important. The canals are important. It was really cool. I really, really enjoyed that. It really helped it stand out. It gave the film a flavour. It gave it a sense of identity.
Yeah, definitely. Because the original book is set in England. Like a nice little cozy village somewhere, but to set it against, backdrop of Venice, and I think the film was set in 1947 specifically, so not only do we get the absolute joy and delight of seeing Venice on the big screen, but also from a totally different time period as well, and it's just absolutely beautifully shot. And the palazzo that they filmed it in, which I'm not sure if they filmed it all in the one place or maybe used a couple for the main location, but absolutely stunning. It's that original Venetian architecture from 18th 17th century. It plays such a part in it, and it really, really lends itself to that spooky atmosphere.
Claustrophobic.
Very claustrophobic, and the house is almost kind of like labyrinthine, which I really, really like. And there's decayed beauty, which I kind of think is just Venice all over. But yeah, it was really, really stunning to watch.
The cinematography really lends to it as well. It gives it amazing atmosphere.
Yeah.
We both agree that the atmosphere in this film is incredible. A lot of that is down to the location, the lighting, even like what they do with the camera is really interesting. Branagh loves his Dutch angles, and they really do work here better than they have so in his previous films. It gave a sense of unease, and sometimes that maybe they're not alone, that something is watching, like a nice Dutch angle through a window to look at them.
Yeah.
That I really, really enjoyed. I have a couple of faults of it, though. I think I have more faults of it than you do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My main faults are, I knew it was never going to go full horror.
Yeah.
Because these films are steeped, for the most part, in reality. Whether or not you believe the supernatural or not, once these films cross that line, you can't really go back. So I knew that any supernatural parts of the film were going to be to a minimum. So that makes me think, who's the film for? There's not enough scares there to really appease horror fans. And I worry that maybe people who are murder mystery fans might find the horror elements a bit too gimmicky and silly. But overall, I do like what the horror side lends to the story. Also, I think the actual mystery was a bit simple. I don't know if that's just because in my mum was massively into Agatha Christie, so I have watched all of it. So I think I just know anyone who's watched a couple of these can probably work out what's going to happen.
You know, the clues are there for you to piece together. It's not one of those mysteries where, you know, like crucial bits of evidence is concealed that makes it impossible for you to guess who did it until the very end. It's like, you know, if you are paying attention, if you are looking closely, and yes, you know, if you are familiar with murder mysteries, then the clues are absolutely there. The pieces of the puzzle are there for you. And I think we got out of the cinema as soon as it was finished, and we were like, we clocked it. We knew who the murderer was. Like, we guessed it. There were a few things that, you know, did take me by surprise, but I think all in all, like, we did find the revelation of the killer quite predictable.
Yeah. I struggled with some of the dialogue. And maybe just the way a lot of it was presented. I felt like I was watching a group of people who've gone to a murder mystery night and they're reading their bios off a card. There is a great cast. There is a great cast here. And there is some really good moments in it. There's just, you know what I mean? Just several instances where you're like, I don't believe a person talks like that.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
I understand what you mean. I think that is a deliberate choice. Again, I don't really remember the book, so I don't know how much dialogue is taken verbatim from the story itself. I mean, again, this is a very heavily adapted version, so I'm sure it was, you know, very little dialogue of the book remains. But I do think, like, there's almost like an artificiality to it. And yeah, with it, like the characters to an extent kind of feel like real life versions of the characters in Cluedo. Or Clue, you know, any American friends. It's very scripty. I don't know how else to describe it sometimes. But yeah, not natural dialogue. These aren't characters that are conversing and, you know, just like everyday conversations. But I, on the flip side, quite enjoyed that. I really love murder mysteries, and I like seeing the wackiness of the characters. I like seeing, you know, like the tropes sometimes that the characters embody. I like kind of fishing out who is who. I noticed it, certainly, but I didn't mind it. I knew from the trailer that this was never going to be a movie that goes balls to the wall horror. I knew, obviously, the trailer alluded to the fact that it toys with the supernatural, and that was definitely going to be an angle. But I was not expecting to be scared by the movie. And the movie doesn't even try to scare you, really. I think a few people, like, you know, you mentioned that maybe they could have gone a bit harder with it, that horror fans might be disappointed. But I don't know, for me, I got the message loud and clear from the trailer that this is a murder mystery with a few spooky things going on, but by no means, I don't think the film has been mismarketed as a horror. I was not expecting to be scared. I wasn't expecting, you know, ghosts and ghouls to be popping out all the time. I wasn't expecting a load of jump scares all the time. So for me, it struck that balance really well. And yeah, atmosphere really is 10 out of 10. That in and of itself was responsible for a lot of the eeriness. You know, there's characters holding like lanterns around, walking through the corridors of the palazzo. There's the shadows. I love that. So for me, that was enough. It ticked that box in a way that left me satisfied. I don't think I was left wanting any more of that. So that was a win. That was a win for me. But I do understand why some people might be maybe a bit disappointed, or that the film might not be exactly what they want it to be.
I think it could have gone just a little bit harder. Even on the murder mystery side of it, do you think sometimes elements of that were sacrificed to include some of the horror?
Maybe.
There is a nice balance, but they could have just done more on both sides.
A little bit more. There were a few jump scares, or like two, I think specifically, that I not to say that they were a bit cliche, but almost, but not quite cliche.
Are you telling me the one in the trailer isn't one of the biggest cliches
I think we probably are thinking of the same one. I am a bit annoyed with the trailer actually, because I think it gave a few too many scares away. You know, there's the one of Poirot in the bathroom by the sink, and I don't really think that should have been in the trailer. I really liked it, and maybe it could have gone a bit harder. Maybe when the jump scares are there, could have, you know, made them a little bit less tropey. Atmosphere has major creepy points. You know, we said at the beginning, like the big angle for seeing this one was the spookiness. Yeah, the fact that it was clearly dabbling in something supernatural, which obviously Orient and Death on the Nile don't. That will always, you know, make me curious. Any kind of movie that dabbles in murder mysteries and spookiness it's enough to hook me in. But I'm curious now that I've seen him in action and I know I like Branagh as the character. Yeah, I think we should check them out.
I think it's a very enjoyable movie. I think there is a lot there, especially for Agatha Christie fans.
Yeah, I would absolutely watch it again.
I do want to point out, I feel like most of the people inside the theatre were older.
They were older. Oh, actually, one thing I have just thought of that we both give unanimous praise for, sound design. Sound design,
yes. There's a child's singing.
Yes, yeah.
And at one point, when I first heard it, I thought it was a child sat behind me, like to the right.
Exactly the same.
And then it travelled, as soon as it started travelling around, I realised it's actually just really good sound design. And I really, really appreciated that. That's something you're only really going to get in a theatre.
Yeah.
And that happened several times throughout the movie, but that first moment when it caught me off guard, I thought, like, who's brought a child to this
I know, I was
film?
Really annoyed. I was like, control your children, please. And then I realised it was part of the movie and I was like, oh, well done.
I actually kind of hope he gets to continue playing the character.
Yeah.
So I think he directs him well, he plays him well, and he's clearly willing to try new things.
Yeah. I would just like to see more films made like this. Scary murder mysteries. I think there's a bit of a gap in the market. But I understand why they're not maybe as popular as, you know, like full-blown horrors and everything else. But I really love this. This film just ticks so many boxes.
I think they should send Poirot to the Wild West.
Maybe.
That's next. That's the next for me. Check it out. It's just dropped into theatres now, and yeah, it's a fun time. Like I said, you enjoyed it a bit more than I did, but I did still.
Yeah.
I was still thoroughly entertained.
Yeah.
Throughout. I just got a little bit bored in the middle, but the beginning, the first third of this film was incredible. I liked how it ended. It's just the middle. It makes me excited to visit Venice in the future, which we are.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you for our regularly scheduled programming on Thursday.